I've got three blues in my palette box. My classic, wonderful ultramarine blue, which I use always. I have always used it. It has never gone off of my palette, ever. And I have a cerulean blue, which I've used, right? You can see this is emptying out. This is M gram. And I have this Prussian blue, which I started using, I tried to use when I was still a beginner. Total failure. So I put it in the palette box. It's been sitting in there for 10 years. Now I come back and I decided that I would try the Prussian blue again, and have found that now, after all these years of experience and learning how to paint and, understanding how paints work better, I'm able to use this Prussian blue, and it's great. But later on in this video, I'm going to talk about the reasons why you should use each of these paintings or not. Okay, so here we have the three blues. We've got Cerulean blue. This is M gram. Winsor & Newton Prussian blue, and my tried and true Ultramarine blue by Gerschdecker, and just a titanium white. So first we're going to take the cerulean blue and just mix it up with white. It's feels like a heavier kind of paint. It's a beautiful, beautiful color. So you can see how lovely this is, and it's used oftentimes in skies and also in seascapes for water, especially here in the Mediterranean. We do see a lot of this type of blue. Let's check out the Prussian blue. The thing about Prussian blue is that it's very, very very, very powerful. So I'm going to start off with just this little tiny bit. And you can see how little blue I use and how much it actually changed the color. Try and get it to the same value. So this is a very powerful tinting blue, and can be difficult. So what I usually do when I'm painting is I just kind of mix the original color with white in gradations. So doing like maybe 5 or 6 values of the same color in a line like that. And then when I go to paint, it's there ready, and I just pick and choose depending on what I'm working on in putting that together. So you can see how the colors play out, right? And what's important is that this is an opaque blue. This is a transparent blue, and ultramarine blue is semi-transparent, semi-opaque, in between these two. And the opaqueness or the transparency of your blue is a defining factor of how the blue is going to play out on your palette. It is one of the reasons why ultramarine blue, for me, for beginners and intermediate artists, but especially for beginners, that you just use a semi-transparent blue or a semi-opaque blue like ultramarine blue that mixes easily in with other colors, that doesn't change the constitution of the paints on your palette too much, and you're able to, just really begin to learn how to focus on mixing your own colors. You're also able to focus on putting together your composition and design so that you can create your beautiful paintings and not worry about the specifics like the light fastness of a particular pigment and things like that. A great thing for you to do is to get all your blues out on your palette, mix them up with white, and figure out which ones, it'll say on the tube, but work with it and begin to understand what it means. What does opaque paint mean? And what does a transparent paint mean? How does it mix into my other colors? What happens if I mix an opaque blue and a transparent blue into the red? What happens to the consistency of the paint? All these things you can begin to understand so that you know which blue to use. If you're going to use a transparent blue or an opaque blue, in which part of your painting. Generally speaking, on very, very basic terms, when you're working in the shadows and the first layers and the shadows of your paint, it's not bad to have transparent paints, because they're thin, they're flat, they don't catch light, and they work great for shadows. And when you're in the light areas of your painting, you want something to be semi-opaque or opaque so that you can really work the brush stroke so that it catches the light the way you want and just makes that tree stand out, or just makes the fishing boat at that particular spot in the hull, which I love, stand out more. So you begin, when you understand your paints and how they work, then you can use them to your advantage in your paintings. All right, let's get down to the nitty gritty of it. Cerulean blue is opaque, so it has a lot of covering power, and if you lay it down on top of paints below it, you're not going to see the other paints coming through. There's no transparency of this one. It's like a blob. And it can be used for, it's great for certain areas of the sky, certain areas of water, that you really want to draw the eye to. Also, this has a light fastness of 1. So that means, basically speaking, if you lay down the paint today on your painting, 100 years from now, if you go back and look at your painting, should we be so lucky, if you go back and look at your painting, this blue will not change at all. It'll look exactly the same. The staining power of it is weak. And what does that mean? That just means that you have a pigment that has larger pigment molecules. I think they'd be called molecules, right? So when you lay it down on your canvas, they sit on top of the canvas, right? They don't get mushed in, or they don't get soaked into the canvas. They just kind of lay on top. That's what that means. And this is a paint like that. So if you make a mistake and you go and you scrape it off, you can pretty much get rid of it. Prussian blue. This is, a really, really, really dark paint, and it is fully transparent. So this is a transparent paint, which makes it great for glazing, great for taking a tiny bit, like you saw, like I took this tiny little bit and you saw how much tinting power this Prussian blue has. And it moves towards green, so it is a cool blue. It's cool, and it's really great for water in certain times of day. However, it is so dang strong. The light fastness of this is a 1. So again, if you lay this down today, 100 years from now or 200 years from now, it's probably going to look exactly the same. The staining power of this is through the roof. This is the kind of pigment that if you lay it down on a canvas, the canvas soaks it in, right? It doesn't just sit on top like cerulean blue might. It like really soaks in. So it becomes practically part of the canvas. And the reason for that is that the pigment is so fine that you know, it's like Greek coffee. That's what it reminds me of. It's just like a powder. And when it mixes with oils, and it stains so beautifully. So when you're using Prussian blue, you have to kind of know already how to paint. So please don't use this if you're just starting out. It's going to be extra hard. You're going to have a really, really difficult time. And when you want to go back and correct something on a painting, it ain't going to work very well. So that's my suggestion. Just kind of keep it to the side and bring it in when you have a pretty good handle on what's going on your palette and what your abilities are in color mixing and laying your colors and your brushwork and everything on the canvas. Bringing it in later on, I've had this for years. I made the mistake and bought it when I was just a beginner, and it just completely overwhelmed me. So I just I ditched it, and it's been sitting in that little box in my studio for years, literally years. And now that I'm at the level that I'm at, you know, I'm more advanced, I have a greater understanding. I'm using it again, and I'm really enjoying it because I know what to do. I know how to deal with this thing. It's an ornery, difficult, stubborn paint, but with the right kind of approach, you can get so many cool things to happen. Ultramarine blue is your favorite paint, especially if you are a beginner. Just get an ultramarine blue and start there. This is a semi-transparent paint. So this means that when you lay it down, you can see underneath the other layers of paint underneath. But if you need to cover everything up, you can do that as well. So it's like, it's not on one side or the other, it's right in the middle. And that's why this is a great paint to use. Any brand, right? This is a great one to use for your paintings when you're learning how to paint, when you are developing as an artist. It's just a great way to start. If you have this as one of the main pigments on your limited palette, you're going to be okay. You can come in and add a little bit of the cerulean blue or cobalt blue, or, you know, God forbid you go ahead and go with the Prussian blue. But if you use this as your mainstay and then these other blues as a side dish, like a little tiny side dish, while you're learning how to paint, you're going to have really, really good results with your painting. So that's the semi-transparent paints. These are great to use. Semi-transparent paints, especially in the beginning, because you can push them this way or that way. You can make them more transparent, you can make them more opaque, depending on the white that you're using or the other colors that you're mixing in with them. This has a light fastness of 3. You can see that there. It's got these 3 stars. It's also on the front where it shows that it's semi-transparent. So a light fastness of 3 just means that, yeah, well, 100 years from now, this color might change a little bit. It might not be exactly the same as the way you laid it down today. And maybe you go 80 years and it stays exactly the same, and then it kind of starts to lose its pizzazz as a color. That's basically what it needs. As beginner artists or intermediate artists, you don't need to worry about stuff like that. But what you should know is the transparency or the opaqueness of the paint that you're choosing to use, and what it can do and what it can't do. Like, you can take an opaque paint like this and add a bunch of medium to it, and you can really break it up, but you're also breaking up the pigment, which isn't going to be very good in later years, as it may not hold the paint on the canvas as it would have if you just left it alone or added just the proper amount of medium. I've got a couple of videos on painting mediums and how to use them. You can check one out here. My advice is, if you want to listen to it, is to stay away from the Prussian blue. Ultramarine blue, it's It's just the best one out there. If you like what I did on this channel, please click the like and subscribe button and that notification bell. So with that, you guys, be inspired, be creative, be you.